Welcome to another edition of Biro Sports Talk. I'm your host, Biro, and as always, just like to give a quick shout out to Evo Retro, the place with your gaming needs. You got Funko Pop protectors, you got video game protectors, video game accessories, gaming merch, Evo Retro merch, and more. And more. So, please give them a look. There's a link in the description. Helps me out, helps them out as well. So, come on, there we go. As always, I'm your host, Biro. We have our last Week 18 results. We have how predictions went this year. Got questions or anything sports related, feel free to email them to birosportstalk@gmail.com. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Instagram. I think I hit them all. Not quite on TikTok yet. Don't have any update on the potential gaming side of things either. So, looking at what we have now, let's look at these Week 18 results. So, Week 18, Corbin and Tressa, we did not go over their picks during the show, but afterwards I did get to see. They did send their picks in. And let's just go over it. So, looking at it, for Tressa, she was 8-8. Corbin was 9-7. And squeaking out a win in the last week at 10-6. Biro finished it off. Now, the most common mistakes, you see Cincinnati, Green Bay, Indianapolis was another major one that everyone thought would win. And those were your biggest mistakes. Some consistent wins from last week. Dallas. Surprisingly, one of us did not pick Kansas City. Otherwise, that would have been one. Washington, Pittsburgh, and Tennessee. Tampa Bay. Yes. And that would be it. There's a lot more guarantees than there were misses. Guaranteed misses. So, what does that leave for us here this week? Well, what we're going to talk about first is early season predictions. So, I have right here, try to show it a little closer, predictions. As you can see, there's two different records. I have records for what I predicted versus how they ended. And going to be honest, I was a little too optimistic and I'm pretty sure unrealistic with my picks in some of these cases. And by that, I mean, I'm pretty sure more teams won early season prediction. Ravens suck. Actually, I will say this, Corbin, with your Ravens suck pick. Looking over these early season predictions, 3 teams I predicted their record. 3 teams. That's not terrible for being 32 teams. But we'll talk about them when we get to them. But hey, you brought up the Ravens. Let's start with the AFC North. And in the AFC North, you have the Bengals finishing first at 10-7. Steelers also making playoffs at 9-7-1. Browns and Ravens both finish 8-9. Ravens technically, I believe, is 4th. Yes, Ravens technically 4th. Now, the biggest kicker looking at this, the Ravens were 1-5 in conference. You swing, let's say, the other way and be 5-1, or even winning 3 more being 4-2, like the top two, and the Ravens are guaranteed. Those 3 games put the Ravens in first place if they win those. So those were your outcomes: 10-7 Bengals, 9-7-1 Steelers, Browns 8-9, and Ravens 8-9. Hell yeah. Nice one, Corbin. Nice one. But here's how the predictions went. So predicting the start of the season, I went Steelers 10-7, Browns 10-7, Ravens 8-9, and Bengals 7-10. So really, I predicted how the Ravens would end up at 8-9. Now, my reasoning for the 8-9 was teams would figure out Lamar. The real reason they finished 8-9 was the Ravens were just beaten up and they were injured. Their team was pretty much decimated by injuries. Steelers, 1 game off thanks to a tie. Yeah, a tie with the Lions, which I need to write down that tie because for some reason I wrote 16 games for the Lions because I forgot. Here's the real prediction. Will the Comets win tomorrow with us in attendance? You know what, Corbin? I'm going to go out and say the Comets do win tomorrow night. They're a very good team like they were last year when they won. I'm going to go ahead and predict they get that win. That'll be a fun night for you guys. Moving right along, though, to the AFC South. About the same, but not quite. So let's start with how they finished. So we got 12-5 Titans, 9-8 Colts, Jaguars at 3-14, and Texans at 4-13. Now I did that out of order because I'm going out in the order I predicted them, which doesn't help. So Titans, I predicted at 11-6. Colts 10-7. So you see those two teams pretty close to how they finish. If the Colts would have finished 10-7, they would be in playoffs, but they had to lose to Jacksonville. I had Jacksonville 7-10, being optimistic that the rookie quarterback and Urban Meyer would be successful. Not the case, as Urban Meyer was not helpful whatsoever in that scenario. Texans, though, I had at 5-12. They were 4-13. Again, a game off. Not too shabby. Like I said, even in the AFC, pretty close. Just the Browns flipped it on me. And, of course, the Browns and Bengals both kind of weren't as good as they were supposed to be. The only one in the AFC South, though, that was really drastically different would be the Jaguars. I was more optimistic. They were not. AFC West, again, close. It's pretty close, actually. Chiefs, they finish 12-5. Your Raiders, who won to get in, are 10-7. The Chargers, who lost and are out, are 9-8. And the Broncos are 7-10. Looking at how I ranked them, I had Chiefs at 13-4, Chargers and Raiders 8-9, and Broncos 6-11. A game off, and of course the Raiders were 2 games off. They finally did good enough to make playoffs and not miss out, which is great for them. They're on a 4-game winning streak. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out for them. And last, in just the way I do these, AFC East. The Bills finished 11-6. Patriots 10-7, both in playoffs. Dolphins 9-8, missing out. And Jets 4-13. So how did I rank these teams? Well, I had Bills at 13-4. So a couple games off there. Dolphins I had at 9-8, hit it right on the nail. However, not good enough to make playoffs. Patriots I had 7-10, another team that kind of flipped it. And I had Jets 7-10, a little optimistic again with the rookie. Did not do as well. Heading over to my neck of the woods on the NFC side of things. I've got a cold. Everyone's going to think I have COVID. Oh, Corbin. Better get that sniffles fixed up, man. But let's NFC North. So, how they finished. 13-4 for the Packers, 8-9 for the Vikings, 6-11 for the Bears, 13-1 for the Lions. How I had them ranked. Same order, different win-loss percentage for each one. I had Packers 12-5, Vikings 10-7, Bears 8-9, Lions 6-11. I'm laughing because Corbin on Twitch. Hey, I can still smell and taste great. That's what matters, man. That's what matters now. Again, off by a couple games for each of them. Packers, the only one I was really super close on. Just off by a game. So let's move on. So now we got the NFC South. How they finish. 13-4, Buccaneers. 9-8 for the Saints. 7-10 for the Falcons. Which I don't know why I didn't circle that. So I really had 4. I had 4 I predicted correctly. But anyways, 7-10 for the Falcons, 5-12 for the Panthers. How I ranked them. I had the Bucks 11-6. I had the Saints 8-9. I had them on a losing side instead of a winning side. I did predict 7-10 for the Falcons. Panthers, I had 7-10. Again, optimistic. And I agree with that, Corbin. I do. Giving the boot to Pace and Nagy is a good start for the Bears to turn it around. But hey, I will get to that. Because I have a lot of thoughts on that. As much as the Pace firing surprised me, it was necessary. So, like I said, let's move on. With the NFC West. So the NFC West, a little different. That's putting it nicely. So in the NFC West, you got the Rams at 12-5, the Cardinals 11-6, 49ers 10-7, and the Seahawks 7-10. How I had them finishing. I had the Seahawks 12-5, the Rams 10-7, Cardinals 7-10, and the 49ers 7-10. That the most missed division or conference, whatever you want to call it, or division. They're divisions, sorry. Most missed division by far. 5 games off for the Seahawks, 2 games off for the Rams, but 4 games off for the Cardinals, and a flip-flop. I just like talking. It's all right. You're not distracting me. I enjoy it. I enjoy you commenting. I'll be honest. So, like I said, NFC West most missed division. And last, NFC East. I mean, about the same. So I have Cowboys. Well, let's start with how they finish. 12-5 Cowboys, 9-8 Eagles, football team 7-10, Giants 4-13. How did I have them finished? Well, I had the Cowboys 9-8, predicted the football team would be 7-10, Giants 6-11, and the Eagles 5-12. So some misses, but not as big as the NFC West and some other divisions. So out of my predicted playoff teams, so 14 total, I predicted 8 out of 14. Teams I had predicted for playoffs that didn't make it: Dolphins, Browns, Colts, Bears, Seahawks, Vikings. Yes, I squeezed the Bears in. Not to worry, though, the Bears played the Seahawks and the Seahawks won, so yeah. So I'll keep that up to date, see who I have in my Final Four to next week's Final Four. How do I predict next week? Woo, there we go. So because there's no official bracket, I wrote them down, as you can see right there, on the back of this week. I got the Eagles, wow. Well, I guess we can start with the NFC. So the NFC, we got the Eagles playing the Bucks, 49ers playing the Cowboys, Cardinals playing the Rams. And I'll just be honest here, man. I have the Bucks beating the Eagles. I got the Cowboys beating the 49ers. And I got the Cardinals beating the Rams. Now, why the Cardinals beating the Rams? Well, if you look at the last game where they lost the Seahawks 38-30, I mean, they've been losing a lot towards the end here. But the big thing in either team's stats, though, is that they're 1-1. If it was like 2-0, you almost guaranteed have to go the other way in the third game. But they're 1-1. So let's talk about some stats. So the Cardinals, what are they good at? And you know, by losing to the Seahawks, the Cardinals put themselves in a great position, to make a run. Now, why is this surprising? Well, the Cardinals are 8-1 away. 8-1 away. Now think about that. 8 wins, 1 loss away. Meaning they're 3-5 at home. They don't want to play at home. They thrive on the road, which is an unusual thing for any team in any sport. But you see it occasionally. So it makes you wonder, okay, 8-1 away, who did they lose to? The Lions. Yes, the Lions. At Los Angeles, they beat the Rams 37-20. At Phoenix, Arizona, though, the Rams won 23. So again, is this good or bad? I'm going with the good and picking the Cardinals. Out of the other games, Cowboys, 49ers, pretty even. Again, another team very good on the road in the 49ers. However, I think the Cowboys are just that much more talented and defensively talented this year, stats-wise. Going Cowboys. And then, of course, the Eagles, Buccaneers. Buccaneers are 7-1 at home. They're getting this home game that they needed. Being the 2 seed, there's a very good chance they play most of the playoffs at home. So it's good that the Bucs and Tom Brady are at home. Now in the AFC, you got the Raiders, Bengals, Patriots, Bills, Steelers, Chiefs. Raiders and Bengals, I went Bengals. Honestly, I went Bengals, but if I had to make a pick again, probably go Raiders. Interesting team. I mean, Derek Carr's willing them to win. You look at the Bengals, they're young, they're good. But the Raiders are kind of experienced. They've felt all the failures. They've carried the burdens. You look at the Bengals, they're still young. They need to be hit hard. And the Raiders are a team that could hit you hard and hit you fast. However, these two teams are pretty much identical. They're both 5-3 away. They're both 5-4 at home. You're just looking at some younger guys on the Bengals. Patriots Bills could be a very interesting game as well. And it features the rare good away team. So you look at the away numbers versus the home numbers for the Patriots. Patriots are 6-2 away, which is great. They're 4-5 at home, which is not so good. So they're playing what they need to succeed, which is try to be away from home. The Bills, on the other hand, 6-3 at home, 5-3 away. They've lost some ones that were questionable this year, and that's putting it nicely. And I mean that. It's putting it very nicely. They've lost a close one to the Buccaneers. They lost a close one to the Patriots. They lost a close one to the Jaguars, which I still can't believe. Lost a close one to the Titans. And lost a close one to the Steelers. The only game the Bills were blown out were the Colts. 41-15, and the Colts are gone. Here's the thing, though. In Biro Sports Talk predictions, my Super Bowl favorite to win it all right now, or back then, was the Bills. Do I still think the Bills have the talent? Yes. But do I see the Bills winning the Super Bowl at this point of the season? I could, but you're going to have to win some to convince me. But I did choose the Bills to win against the Patriots. Now, a fun one, Steelers, Chiefs. Chiefs are really good at home. They're 7-2. They're 5-3 away. Steelers 3-5 away, which is really bad. They would have probably preferred to be home, where they would have been 6-2-1. Yeah, you gotta have the one. Obviously going with the Chiefs. Chiefs are just a more dynamic team. But I look at Steelers Chiefs. Could we see a closer than necessary game? I do think there's a closer than necessary game here for the Chiefs. But I think that it was necessary. They needed this extra game to fine-tune their offense for the playoffs. And, of course, the last teams making it, of course, number one seeds, Titans and Packers. Don't play this week because they're on a bye. Fun times. Before we go into more NFL, real quick, on Monday we did have the national championship game. Congratulations, Georgia Bulldogs. That makes me finish the year at 24-14. Not at 500 like I've been in years past. So not bad at 24-14, predicting the college football bowl games. Fun times. But continuing on, because Corbin brought up Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace. Why not continue with who is fired? Let's see. I'm trying to see if I can find. Yeah, I'm trying to find more, but let's start with what we know. So what I see one more got fired recently, and we'll talk about that as well. But we had three teams fire right away on Black Monday, which is what the Monday after the final week is called. You got Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace, of course, fired. Mike Zimmer fired of the Vikings, and Brian Flores, which was the surprise of the Dolphins. Now, the big thing with Brian Flores, they wanted to emphasize he was 23 and 24. About 500. If you take away that first year, he's like 19 and 13, man. That's crazy good. He was set up with a really bad team that first year. So, obviously, the one I think most wrongful of a firing, Brian Flores. Now for the Vikings. Mike Zimmer, I don't know if I would have fired him necessarily. Granted, this is the year they should have made playoffs. They're an every other year team. But by missing it, I think they were just sick of it. They were plagued with injuries and COVID hits. They'll get better, though. I do think they'll get better. But I don't think it will be next year. I think a new coach will take an extra year for this team to get back on track. But speaking of the Vikings, one of the teams I did have making the playoffs in my predictions. I have to emphasize that. I mean, they lost a close one to the Bengals, lost a close one to the Cardinals, lost a close one to the Browns, lost a close one to the Cowboys, lost to the Ravens, lost to the 49ers, lost to the Lions, lost to the Rams. Those were all close. The only loss that wasn't close was against the Packers 37-10. They also beat the Packers 34-31. So tell me, were they a good team? I would say yes. They probably should have made playoffs. And I think they just had enough of mediocre in Minnesota, and they want something like everyone else, something better. Real quick, before I go on to my long rant, because I will be very breathy about the Bears. Just saw Texans fired David Culley, their head coach this year. It was his first year, and they fired Culley after one season. I hate to say it, and I mean it like that. But to be a first year coach and be fired immediately, I feel like that's terrible practice. And here's what I don't like. The guy they gave him such a terrible roster. And I mean it, man. They had a bad roster this year for the Texans. I was actually trying to see if I could. I don't see anybody. All right, let's see. Who did the Texans have, man? Because, All right, Texans. Rookie quarterback Davis Mills was their leader in the quarterback department. Brandon Cooks, who's not a bad receiver, but playing for a bad team, was their top receiver. And Rex Burkhead, who I'm pretty sure only played about. It says he played 16 games, but I don't think he did, if I remember correctly. That or they didn't use him for most of them. Pretty sure Mark Ingram's not on the team, and he had 7 games, and it was second. It's just bad. They were bad. That's me putting it nicely. They were bad. They were bad. They were very, very bad. But again, David Culley deserved a second season, man. He deserved to make the changes and the necessary picks to turn the ship around. You look at this season, and honestly, it's got to be considered successful with how they played. I go back to my predictions. Yeah, they didn't win 5, but they won 4. They were right there. They were right in that mix. But yet, they fired him anyways. And I agree with the idea that they hired David Culley to be a scapegoat. And I can see that. I do. To say this guy is a scapegoat is just crazy. But let's talk about one more of these things. I know Bears fans agree with me, and yeah, there's some that might not, but come on, guys. You knew it was necessary. So, as we all know now, Bears fired Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace. Pace surprised me because he was hit or miss. Nagy, it was obvious from the start he had to be fired. You're an offensive guru who's not had a top offense your entire time in the league as head coach. Combine all the quarterbacks, which is sad, and you have a mediocre quarterback season total. And that's combining the yards together. I'm just looking at this, and I'll be honest, I'm disgusted by the numbers. Allen Robinson, only 410 yards. Come on. He's better than that. Mooney was your only 1,000-yard receiver. Sad, but okay, get it. They really wanted to make him a guy this year. Cole Kmet, implemented into offense. Get it, yeah. And you had a good defense. Like, when I watched the defense, very few games did teams just march. The Rams did that first week. Cleveland did because the offense couldn't do literally anything. Tampa Bay destroyed them. But there was close games. I'm just disappointed. But again, Nagy needed to go. It's just obvious. It's what needed to happen. And I look forward to whoever moves into that position. Personally, you have Justin Fields, a bright, talented, young quarterback. You have Andy Dalton and Nick Foles, which I would get rid of one. Probably Nick Foles, but I would get rid of one of those two. And from there, you can build the roster. I mean, you have pieces, and you know what pieces you need to get better at. So, yeah. Bears beats Battlestar Galactica. Man, we are over time, which is great. That means there's discussion, there's talk. There's a lot to talk about just in NFL this week. NCAA, there's been a lot going on basketball wise. You know me, gotta talk about basketball. Buckeyes currently losing in basketball. Duke lost the other night to, I think it was Miami, but beat Wake Forest. DePaul upset Seton Hall. Voice kind of sounds weird, but that's okay. NBA, hottest team right now is the Grizzlies. I mean, what more do you need? No. Very interesting, to say the least. The Bulls are number one on their side. Oh, sorry. Suns are number one on the west side. But from there, we will call it a night. So, thank you again for everyone who tuned in. I will see you next time. Next Thursday, we'll talk about the conference semifinals for the NFC, AFC, and of course, probably basketball because we are moving into that season. So stay tuned. See you next time.